I was standing in my childhood living room, holding eviction papers with my name on them. My parents wouldn't meet my eyes, and my brother smiled like he'd already won. My name is Evelyn Carter. I grew up believing family was permanent. That blood meant safety. Our house sat on a quiet suburban street, white porch, creaky wooden steps, a maple tree that turned red every fall. I learned to ride a bike there. I cried there after my first heartbreak. I brought my newborn daughter home there after my divorce. After my husband left, I moved back in with my parents, not because I wanted to, but because I had nowhere else to go. They told me, "This will always be your home." I believed them. At night, the house felt peaceful. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, my daughter sleeping beside me. I didn't know silence can lie. Back then, I still believed time could heal anything. I told myself this was temporary, that once I got back on my feet, I'd move out and everything would return to normal. I avoided conflict. I avoided questions. I avoided the quiet fear sitting in my chest. Every morning I woke before sunrise, making coffee quietly so I wouldn't disturb anyone. I packed my daughter's lunch, folded her clothes, and kissed her forehead while she slept. I wanted to be invisible but useful. My parents thanked me, but never warmly. Their gratitude felt rehearsed, like something they'd practiced saying. I noticed how my mother began keeping her purse closer, how my father stopped leaving paperwork on the kitchen table, how doors stayed closed longer than usual. Still, I told myself I was imagining it, because the alternative, that my own parents were planning something behind my back, was too painful to accept. My younger brother Daniel had always been different. Golden child. Favorite son. The one who could do no wrong. He moved back home a year after I did. New car, new clothes, no job. He laughed louder. Took more space. Treated the house like it already belonged to him. At dinner, my father listened only when Daniel spoke. My mother watched him like he was fragile glass. I started noticing things. Whispered conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Papers disappearing from my parents' desk. Daniel locking his phone when I walked past. One night I heard my name through the wall. "She doesn't need to know," my mother said quietly. Daniel replied, "Just trust me." My chest tightened. I paid utilities. I cooked. I cleaned. I bought groceries. I even helped cover my parents' medical bills when insurance failed. Still, something felt off, like I was slowly being erased. Daniel didn't hide his confidence. He parked his car in my usual spot, took over the garage, started referring to the house as my place. Always with a laugh, like it was a joke I wasn't supposed to take seriously. Once I confronted him gently. "Why are you acting like this?" I asked. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Because this house is an investment," he said. "Not a charity." I stared at him. "You're talking about our parents' home." He smirked. "Exactly." That night I couldn't sleep. I heard footsteps pacing, low voices murmuring, paper shuffling. Every sound felt like a warning. My daughter asked one evening, "Mommy, are we leaving soon?" I forced a smile. "No, baby. This is home." But my voice shook. It happened on a Tuesday morning. I was folding laundry when a knock echoed through the house. Two men in suits. One asked, "Is Evelyn Carter here?" I stepped forward. He handed me an envelope. Eviction notice. 30 days. Property transferred. New owner. Daniel Carter. I felt dizzy. "What is this?" I whispered. My parents stood frozen behind me. I turned to my mother. "Mom?" She wouldn't look at me. Daniel walked in from the kitchen, calm, almost proud. "I bought the house," he said. "Well, technically they signed it over." My heart slammed. "You signed away the house?" I screamed. "The house you promised would always be mine too?" My father finally spoke. "It was simpler this way." "Simple?" I cried. "You gave him everything." Daniel shrugged. "You're divorced. You're unstable. You would have sold it eventually." I laughed, sharp and broken. "I lived here. I paid here. I raised my child here." My mother whispered, "We didn't think you'd understand." That's when I realized. This wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. My legs gave out and I sat down hard on the couch. All the memories, birthdays, holidays, late-night talks, collapsed under the weight of one signature. I looked at my parents, desperate for even a hint of regret. There had to be another way, I whispered. My father sighed, tired. Daniel needs stability. I laughed bitterly. So did I. But no one answered that. The silence felt deliberate, punishing. Daniel cleared his throat. You should start packing soon. That was the moment I stopped seeing him as my brother. He was just another man willing to destroy me for comfort. The house changed overnight. Daniel started renovations, new locks, new furniture, new rules. My childhood photos vanished from the walls. My daughter's toys were moved into boxes. You have 30 days, Daniel reminded me daily. My parents avoided me like strangers. At night, I cried silently so my daughter wouldn't hear. I begged. I'll buy my share. I'll sign a lease. I'll pay more. Daniel smiled without warmth. This isn't personal, he said. It's business. The word echoed in my head. Business. As if motherhood, loyalty, sacrifice, none of it mattered. I started documenting everything. Photos. Conversations. Dates. Times. Daniel noticed. You planning something? He asked casually. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Just protecting myself. His eyes darkened. My parents accused me of creating drama. Of tearing the family apart. I wanted to scream. They had already torn it apart. I was just refusing to bleed quietly. One evening my mother stood in my doorway. You could apologize, she said. Make this easier. For who? I asked. She didn't answer. Business. From the same boy I protected growing up. From the parents who taught me loyalty. One night I overheard my mother say, "She'll survive." Something inside me snapped. I stopped begging. I started preparing. The breaking point came when Daniel tried to set a move-out date early. He taped a note to my door. 14 days. No conversation. No warning. I ripped it down, hands shaking. My daughter watched silently from the bed. That night as she slept, I realized something terrifying. If I stayed quiet, my daughter would grow up believing women deserve less. And I refused to teach her that. I found the truth buried in old files. Years ago, my grandmother left the house equally to all grandchildren, including me. But Daniel had convinced my parents to quietly amend the trust while I was recovering from childbirth and depression. Forgery. Manipulation. Greed. I sat at my desk shaking. I could stay silent, or I could fight my own blood. I chose myself. I hired a lawyer, filed a case, and moved out on my terms. 6 months later, the judge ruled in my favor. The property transfer was illegal. The house was ordered to be sold. Daniel lost everything he thought he owned. My parents stopped calling. But for the first time in my life, I felt free. I bought a smaller place. Quiet. Safe. My daughter laughs again. Family didn't betray me. People did. Sometimes I still miss the idea of them. The parents I thought I had. The brother I once trusted. But I don't miss the fear. I don't miss shrinking myself to stay included. I taught my daughter a new word: boundaries. And every night when I lock our door, I know I chose right. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I learned this the hard way. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. And silence can steal more than words ever could. Some endings are painful but necessary. Tell me what you would have done.
And that's how everything unfolded. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. We truly read every single one of them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Reddit Diaries to support the channel and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us.